Senator King.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, first I want to compliment the guy who's sitting to your right, Deputy Boudreau, who was in Maine over the weekend, and through the implementation of the Great American Outdoors Act to celebrate the building of a maintenance shed at Acadia National Park, which was desperately needed, a maintenance building, I should say, much more than a shed. But the point being, maintenance is important. And one thing that worries me about the National Park budget, as you know, we passed the Great American Outdoors Act, and it was an incredible accomplishment to buy down the deferred maintenance in the national park system. My concern is that although the budget seems to be moving slowly in the right direction, we're still way under where we should be in terms of maintenance funding. The rule of thumb in industry is you should be setting aside for maintenance 2 to 4% of your asset value. I think the National Park Service is at 1% maybe. So I just commend to you for future budget consideration. We can't pass a Great American Outdoors Act every 4 or 5 years. We've got to have, we can't keep digging the maintenance hole deeper. I hope that you'll join me in being committed to that, to maintaining our public facilities rather than hoping to bail them out every so often.
Yes, of course. Having a handle on the backlog is certainly important to us. It's critically important. In fact, I'm happy that Tommy was there. He actually stayed a little bit longer than he anticipated because of the plane situation.
Well, that's because he saw what a spectacular place Acadia National Park is.
But yes, the deferred maintenance backlog for last year was approximately $30 billion, and that is a decrease of $778 million from the year before. We know it's still significant, but we're working at it.
Well, my suggestion is stop digging the hole by adequately funding maintenance on an ongoing basis. That's important. The second issue, and I think the chairman may have touched on this, permitting reform. We're not going to achieve our clean energy goals without permit reform. The Inflation Reduction Act cannot be implemented as long as environmentally sound projects are being in an endless cycle of permitting hell. I hope that the administration will join us, as many of us are working on permitting reform, not to lower the environmental standards, but to develop practical, realistic processes to accelerate the process, deadlines, meaningful deadlines, shorten and having one agency in charge. Are you committed, or will you join us in an effort to achieve environmentally sound permitting reform in order to achieve long-term environmental goals?
Absolutely, Senator. Thank you. We're really working to do things in the right way and, of course, comply with our obligations at the same time. And we do that by making sure that folks are at the table from the beginning so that we don't have to go back and correct something.
That's been my experience, is if people are at the table early and you can resolve these issues, then the process can continue in some kind of rational time. We're in a race with climate change, and we can't afford 10 or 15 years to permit a transmission line or a pump storage project or other environmental projects. What worries me is that we're viewing permitting over here in a kind of traditional way without being cognizant of the fact that in order to get where we want to get environmentally, we have to build things. And that's not the mindset that's been historically. So I hope you will work with us on this. I think it's critically important, again, to get to a clean energy future. One quick question, the RISE Act, which talked about the allocation of offshore revenues, passed out of this committee last year, and I hope the department can support that bill as reported by the committee. I know you had reservations as it was originally introduced, but I want to inquire about the position of the administration on the bill as reported.
Senator, thank you so much for the question. Of course, we understand that this is an important issue for coastal states, and we certainly do want to support coastal states. I know the support of it requires more conversations with the administration. We're willing to have those conversations and look forward to working with you and the committee.
Well, I want to point out that we're not only talking about oil and gas, we're now talking about offshore wind.
Indeed.
Which could be a significant resource for the coastal states. So I will look forward to working with you on that. But I would specifically, if you can take this for the record, for the administration's position on the RISE Act as reported last year. I believe it's something you can and should support, but I'd like to have that on the record. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator.